When I say, who's the master? You say, no, no.
What is up, guys? Sean the King here, back with another video. So we are doing a much better job this week, Trigger and Studio A. Episode 21 of Darling and the Franxx was actually very good. We are getting back to form, even though there was another episode of a huge amount of exposition dumping. This time it felt like it was more evenly balanced. It didn't feel like it was out of place. And I guess that's probably because last week we were so shocked by how much information they provided in one solid episode. This time around, they handled it a lot better. They interwove it with a lot of great action, and the story felt more connected, if that makes sense. Now, one thing I will say is with the death of Dr. Franxx, uh, a lot of miscellaneous things that we didn't know has pretty much been left to the wayside now. Like I feel like unless someone else can explain to me, I still don't understand what the whole purpose of putting Squad 13 together, what that experiment was really about. Like, what was his end goal for that? Because again, at the beginning, I thought that this was intentional to maybe have a back door to set up and to defeat Papa. But I don't think Dr. Franxx had that idea for them to rebel against Papa in the first place. Even though that's what happened, I don't think that was his intentions at all, because apparently he didn't even know that they were really Vrim. So in my eyes, I don't really understand what his purpose was of doing that. Like, we do know he intentionally brought 02 to Squad 13 to introduce her to Hero. But other than that, I really don't understand what the whole purpose of letting the kids live their lives independently without real, guidance like the nines. So like there's a clear line between how the nines were raised versus how the Squad 13 was raised, where the nines basically followed Papa's orders to the letter, and the 13s were able to just kind of live life. They still had some sort of supervision, but for the most part, they were able to make their own decisions and kind of have more free will to do things. So that ended up helping us in the end. But again, I don't really understand what purpose that was introduced in the story, at least. Small couple of details before I get to the bulk of this review. We find out that not only was 02 a clone of 01, but all of the nines are actually clones of 02, which is why they all had those virtual horns whenever they were in the machine, in the Franxx, and they didn't actually inherit the Klaxosaur blood. So that's why they were really inferior to 02. So that was a little tidbit that we learned in the exposition dump. We also learned that Strelenzia Apaz, the gigantic Frank, is basically an evolved form of the Klaxosaurs that have all combined together to create something to fight Vrim. So it wasn't Dr. Franxx who created Strelenzia Apaz. It was actually just the math of all the Klaxosapiens who didn't turn into energy. They actually turned into the Strelenzia Apaz. Again, this is anime logic, so if we want to build in little ways of how the hell is that even possible, we have to also remember this is an anime, so that's how it happened. Now, one thing that I will say, because the world itself is based off of our world, like it should have some of the similar rules. One nitpick that I would have liked to put out there is the fact that the Klaxosaur princess has been alive for 60 million years, and they actually had their own civilization before humans even existed. Now, to that, after fighting the war with Vrim, all of that, their whole cities, everything got wiped out, and that's why they went underground. So to that, I would say, kind of like when dinosaurs went extinct, we were able to find bits and pieces of dinosaurs to know that they existed. If these people had a highly advanced civilization, I find it funny that no one in the world was able to notice that there was any sort of fossils or any sort of anything beforehand. And even more than that, another tidbit, another tiny gripe that I have is just communication in general. I felt like because the show tried so hard to keep this secret a secret for 20 something episodes, that they missed out on great opportunities just to get this information out there. Like, we didn't need an exposition dump from Dr. Franxx and from the Claxosaur Princess. Why didn't she just communicate with them from the beginning? If she was not the enemy of humanity that they thought she was, why not just communicate directly to the brains of the people and say, hey, these guys that you consider to be Papa, they're actually space aliens named Vrim, and they're here to take over the planet. I'm actually just here to help you guys. I'm just saying. It would have saved us a lot of trouble. It would have saved a lot of story bits, and we could have focused on other things if there was just communication. And I think in general, that's an issue with anime and with movies. There are a lot of problems that could be solved if people just talk. Like that's one of the things that happen in anime specifically that really gets on my nerve, uh, when people have an opportunity to talk and just say what's on their mind, and it would actually solve quite a few issues ahead of time. But for story details, they don't do it. So that's one of my gripes. But I'm not going to hold against this episode too much because, again, at the end of the day, it was a great episode. Uh, but anyway, speaking of the episode, let's actually just talk more about some of the major plot points. Zero Two, is she dead? I mean, her eyes were open at the end. Her horns broke off. I think she might have merged with Zero One because I didn't see the Calaxus Princess anywhere in that cockpit after they had defeated Vrim, or defeated the advanced, defeated the frontal assault from Vrim. I didn't see Zero One in that cockpit at all. As a matter of fact, all I saw was Hero and Zero Two. So, and she just had like this vacant look in her eye, like she might have just died with her eyes open. But somehow I doubt that, because if there is another episode, I believe there's another 2 episodes left. And, Vrim did get away with the Heron Horn weapon. So we do still need to get some clarification on how that battle's going to end. So I doubt that she's truly dead, but whatever the case may be, she might not be in good shape right now. We'll have to wait till episode next week to find out for sure. Now, another trope that we get in anime a lot is so essentially Zero Two makes it to Papa, where she gets her exposition done, where he basically tells her about her being a clone of the Claxosaur Princess and the Nines being clones of her. She doesn't really care about any of that. All she cares about is getting back to Hero. So she gets her injection of her yellow cell rejuvenation, and it kind of gets her back in fighting form. And she manages to get some help from Squad 13, help for them to help her get to Hero. I actually thought it was kind of cool. But again, like I said, there's another one of those tropes where everyone's going to said trying to get to point A, but on their way to point A, there's always these distractions where the whole team has to stay behind to ensure that the main person gets where they need to go. So everyone else is sacrificing themselves so that the other person can make it. You've seen it in Naruto. You've seen it in Bleach, specifically with Naruto in that first season where everyone was going after Sasuke, and Naruto and all of them, they were getting stopped by the Sound Five, I believe it was. So every member of the new Guinea squad had to stop a member of the Sound Ninja in order to let Naruto continue on to go find Sasuke. So this was kind of a same thing where, all the other Frank members had to stay behind and try to stop these other Vrim monsters from getting to their destination. I thought it was handled well. The only thing is that Kokoro Mitsuru were fine. The only ones that we didn't see at the end was Fujitoro and his partner, the one that her hair turned completely white after they fired that gigantic beam. We never saw them again, so it'll be interesting to kind of see what happened with those two. But everyone else looks like they were accounted for and they made it out of there. The Nines, let's talk about the Nines real quick. With the Nines, it's actually very interesting. Even after Papa betrayed them, they were so mind warped by just following orders that they didn't even know what to do. And I think if there was a reason for why Dr. Franxx did what he did, I believe that would probably be something that he did that made sense, because you can clearly see a parallel that when things go wrong, all Squad 9 could do is continue to follow Papa's orders, which is destroy the Calaxosaurs, even though the Calaxosaurs were actually trying to help them. So that actually set them up so that when Vrem actually showed up and started fighting them, they were basically getting decimated. So we actually lost a couple of people from Squad 9, and we don't know how many actually made it out. But one pair of the group got torn apart, and we actually could hear them screaming, "I don't want to die, I don't want to die." So it's not like they were mindless and just followed complete orders. They actually did have feelings, and they actually did value their own lives. So I thought that was very interesting as well. Now, in the end, we get to the point where 02 does make it to Hero, but just made it out of time, and then she was able to merge with 01 to break free of the trap that Vrem set, and of course, the rest is history. So, in the end, like I said, I thought this was a very good episode. I like I said in the beginning, Dr. Franxx did die. He did get to see Strenzia pass before he died, so I guess his mission was complete. He just wanted to see it in action, so he ends up getting killed by a bunch of rocks. But again, I just still feel like there were a lot of questions that can't be answered now because all the exposition dumps are done. Because unless we get it from 01 or from Vrem, the exposition dumps that we got from Dr. Franxx are not happening anymore because he is absolutely 100% confirmed dead. One other thing that I wanted to talk about before I wrap this video up, with Vrem, we know that from their explanation, what they are exactly are an alien race that goes from planet to planet and assimilates the life forms of those planets into pure energy, and that's their version of heaven, I guess. Like for them, that's the way humanity should be, or that's the way that that beings creation should be, is just energy. And it looks like when they left Earth and they assimilated the rest of the members of Ape, it looked to me like, I'll have to check again, but it looked to me like they assimilated everyone who had done the immortal serum, the ones that had been staying in all of these plantations. All of those beams of light that shot up to Vrem, it looked like it was all the other members and all the other people who stayed in those plantations. So technically, the only people that should be alive on Earth are the Nines and then Squad 13, and maybe the other little miscellaneous parasites that are still, all the other clones. Those should be the only ones that should still be alive, technically, because all those other beams of light that shot up into the sky, those were the other people from the plantations, I think. And again, that does leave more questions because remember, Zeromi probably like halfway through the first season, he kind of had that connection with one of those women that were in one of the plantations. And I think a lot of people thought that might have been his birth mother, but come to find out, since they were all clones, there was no way that could have been his birth mother. But there was also a thing with her where they didn't want her near the other parasites because they thought there was some sort of disease that they had. But again, come to find out, these kids are clones. These kids don't have disease, so we don't really know why that whole thing was created at all either. Like that whole drama between, like, why was she getting sick just being near Zeromi? Like, what was the purpose? Like, was their purpose just to be, I guess, I don't even know what the word is. They basically were taken away. They were abducted by Vrem. So was that the whole purpose, so that they could be used as energy? Who knows? But again, I want to know what you guys think of this episode. Like I said, overall, I thought it was a very good episode. It was very strong. It was much stronger than last week's episode. And I think last week's episode, to me, was bad just because the way they executed it out of the blue, like that, all that information and the way that they processed it just didn't work for me that as quickly as it happened. It made more sense this episode, so I'll give them a little bit of a pass. But this, like I said, this episode was great. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Thumbs up the video, subscribe to the channel, and again, I just want to thank you guys. I am now up to 560 subscribers, and that's all because of you guys. Like, this channel has been growing. I'm really, really appreciative of it. Showing up the king. You guys have an awesome day.